Wallace picks up two quick technicals.
You called it, Mike.
Yeah, as we've said all along, it's overshadowed a guy who's a terrific basketball player.
I ain't got no love for them cats. Y'all cats is out there cheating. Yeah, I'm going to give y'all everything I got. And guess what? You going to hear what I got to say. I don't care about no fine. Because with me, it wasn't about the money.
Rasheed Wallace, born September 17, 1974. The ball don't lie is a saying made famous by today's feature that perfectly sums up his career, according to him, that is.
His focus started doing bad habits on the floor.
Dragic misses the technical, and a technical foul on Rasheed Wallace.
Nowadays, Rasheed Wallace attempts to flip the saying in a more positive, motivational way now that he's a coach by telling kids that when you work hard and do the things you're supposed to do to get better, the game will reward you by allowing you to see the ball go in a lot more. Makes tons of sense and a genius way to weaponize a part of his history that was seen at the time as Rasheed joking around again in another attempt to famously feud with referees and troll players. But using the same sentiment, would that mean Rasheed Wallace's career was a disappointment? Did he not work hard enough to turn his before its era stretch four Hall of Fame talent into one of the greatest power forwards ever? Because that was the expectations for Rasheed Wallace when he left North Carolina early and became the 4th overall pick. That was the expectations when he came in and would embarrass Chris Webber in practice as a rookie. Well, not really embarrass. C-Web was still nice then. But early on, you could see Rasheed's talent with how easy he made the game look and how unguardable in theory his skill set was. You didn't usually see 6'10" power forwards that could stretch all the way out to the three-point line on the regular and dagger your team like Wallace. As far as the post game, he had that too. There wasn't much to ask for from a power forward that Rasheed Wallace didn't have, except the mental fortitude to turn the physical into the team-leading winner he was capable of being. The Player of the Year in high school, first team All-ACC and high lottery pick pedigree, but mentally he stepped on his own feet on the journey through basketball that will almost certainly keep him out of the Hall of Fame, where he should have had a shoe-in career, much like his peers at the time, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, and Chris Webber. And how can a Rasheed Wallace intro end without mentioning his would-be King of the Hill technical foul legacy that surprisingly isn't number one in career totals, being beat out by Charles Barkley and Karl Malone. He makes up for it by holding a single-season record of 41 technicals and 29 ejections that essentially can never be broken with the new NBA rules. That said, Rasheed Wallace still should have been at least a top 5 power forward, but as time goes on, his name as a basketball player is more and more forgotten. Here's what stunted Rasheed Wallace's growth and why it's unlikely he'll make the Hall of Fame. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Rasheed Wallace was a 6'10" power forward from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Germantown to be exact. He was the youngest of 3 brothers that helped him develop his competitive nature and need to defend himself when challenged. By his senior year in high school, he was seen as one of the top players in the country, although in limited minutes. He averaged 16 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 blocks a game, being named the Player of the Year by USA Today and Mr. Basketball for the state. With a personal visit from Dean Smith after defeating Michigan in the NCAA National Finals, Wallace was convinced to choose North Carolina over Villanova and Temple. He left after just 2 seasons and a Final Four appearance as a sophomore, averaging 16 points and 8 rebounds, taken 4th overall in the 1995 NBA Draft. Stunt number 1, officials hated him. One of the more notable issues with Rasheed Wallace was his temper, or at least his ability to stand down verbally or non-verbally against players, coaches, fans, but mainly officials. Being top 3 all-time in angering referees to the point they stopped the game to punish you means you had to have had an early start. By just February of his rookie season, Wallace had acquired his first career ejection, receiving his 13th and 14th technicals in less than a minute. He was ejected for over-celebrating by hanging on the rim and then complaining about the first tech. Wallace went on to be traded to the Portland Trail Blazers after just his rookie season to become a part of a team dubbed the Jail Blazers later on because of their off-court activities that would land some in jail. But during that time, Wallace was becoming a star, and on the court, so were the Blazers. They went to back-to-back conference finals in '99 and 2000 in a balanced attack system similar to what Wallace would help create later in Detroit the right way, leading to a championship. Over his career, referees had it up to here with Rasheed Wallace, and it affected his game directly, being teed up so much that he'd have to sit valuable minutes on the bench or be ejected and suspended from games that did even more to hinder his on-court play. Indirectly, because as humans themselves, referees do become emotional and can develop feelings towards certain players, whether good or bad, that can determine you getting a favorable call or not, or even the difference between them deciding to remove you from the game completely. Officials hated Rasheed Wallace, and he hated them just as much. To this day, Wallace believes there are corrupt officials during, after, and before his playing days, and that self-admitted game fixer Tim Donaghy wasn't a lone wolf like the NBA said. Getting to the foul line can mean the difference between a player being Hall of Fame on paper or not, depending on which side he falls on with referees. Rasheed fell on the side of it being difficult for him to be officiated fairly on both ends because officials developed negative feelings towards Wallace, making him an easy target for bad calls, and it hindered his career. Stunt number 2, playing for Detroit/Larry Brown. The second reason I believe Rasheed Wallace won't make the Hall of Fame and why his career is seen as a disappointment at times was because of the Mitch Richmond rule basically. One that says you can rack up individual numbers on non-winning teams, have a great attitude, and still make the Hall of Fame. Richmond did have a stellar career, but so did Wallace, who's arguably done more than Richmond for his career in total, not just the NBA. Individually, Richmond excelled on bad teams, and Rasheed Wallace played on 2 teams with the exact opposite mentality. It was win by committee in Portland and ultra win by committee under Larry Brown in Detroit, where Rasheed was the missing piece that got the conference finals going Pistons to its only championship since the 2000s. In Detroit, Wallace played some of his best basketball and got some of his career lowest amount of technical fouls during his 6 seasons in Detroit. He was traded there essentially by the Portland Trail Blazers by way of a 1-game stop in Atlanta and played the final 22 games in the 03-04 season and, like mentioned, won the NBA championship, defeating the Lakers behind Wallace's perfect fit. He played some of the best basketball of his career in Detroit, so it's hard to call this a growth stunt, but when it pertains to his Hall of Fame chances, the days of individual greatness was over with Larry Brown in the D. Instead, he became just one of the guys, and that was great for him personally and winning-wise. Had he have his own team like Mitch though, who knows what he could have done individually. Stunt number 3, the face of technicals. And lastly, I think Wallace has and will be punished for being the image of representation for the technical foul. Even though he was beaten out by Barkley and Malone, Barkley went on to lighten his image as a naturally comedic commentator, and Malone just disappeared from the basketball world. Out of sight, out of mind. Of the 3, Rasheed was the last active and the most demonstrative, so he became what the league wants to forget when it comes to the ugly face of technical fouls and what that looks like as a brand. Me personally, I can't stand when players don't score or don't get the call they want, and sometimes even when they do score and get the call, the complaining they do to officials as if that's gonna change things. It's not a good look for the NBA and the positive message it wants to promote, and not having future generations think it's okay. Unfortunately for Wallace, he's the face of that, so the NBA will definitely take their time even going over a Rasheed Wallace resume and even thinking of giving him the benefit of the doubt. He finished his career playing in Boston and New York, but was a shell of himself by then at 35 and 38 years old, respectively. All in all, Rasheed Wallace did have a solid NBA career, averaging 14 points and 6.7 rebounds, and is a champion. But because of his misunderstood attitude and the black eye image he represents that the NBA would like to get away from, he didn't become what he could have and most likely won't make the Hall of Fame. Salute to Rasheed Wallace, still had a good career, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth, and I'm out.